One of the main points here made this morning was the implication that the Warbass and Trump projects were held back by the borough president of Brooklyn until you were permitted to take half the project. Is that correct?
That's the first I hear of any implications.
That is not so. You did not use your influence with the late John Cashmore to get a hold of half that project.
Never heard of that. First time I ever heard of a thing like that.
Were you opposed to the project before you entered it? Were you opposed to the tax abatements that the foundation was getting?
Yes, we certainly were opposed to the tax abatement. And we fought it both before City Planning Commission and the Board of Estimate.
Warbass, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
Warbass?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Trump, in testimony this morning, your name came up continually, and there were all sorts of implications and charges where your name was concerned. I'd like to give you an opportunity now to react to some of those things.
They were going to pay $250,000 a year in real estate tax, and I'm paying the city $1 million a year for Beach Haven and Shore Haven, which is on the opposite side of the Belt Parkway, which amounts to $300 per family. They were going to pay $30 a family. So we protested the unfairness of the situation. And we offered to pay the city, I believe it was $1.5 million a year instead of their $250,000 a year.
At Trump Village, there is also a shopping center which came up in testimony this morning, and it was implied that you used funds for the building of the Warbass project for your own private shopping center. Is that true?
I don't think you mean the Warbass project.
I'm sorry, I'll repeat the question. Give me the shot? Okay. You're right. There was a charge made this morning that the Trump Village project, the funds for it, were used for your private shopping center nearby. Is that true?
No, that isn't so. It's all subject to state audit, and I believe they do a very thorough job on their audit, and certainly isn't true.
Speaking of the state audit, a witness this morning said that you set up the Borough Equipment Corporation, a private company, and rented equipment to yourself at rather exorbitant fees. For example, a dump truck at $3,600 was rented at a fee of something like $21,000. Did that have a project of something over $3 million? Do you consider that exorbitant?
No, it certainly wasn't. That was the regular fee. We got no more than anyone else, and it was a $60 million project. I don't call that exorbitant in any way.
In the overall view, the concern of the commissioners, as they express it, is that the $30 per room limit, the informal $30 per room limit, will be broken open, and that will be difficult to keep low middle-income people in town. Do you feel their rising building costs will drive these lower middle-income people out?
On Trump Village, it will not be broken open because we've affected many economies in construction, and we believe, as far as the cooperators are concerned, their charges can actually be reduced from those which we anticipated 4 years ago. This, I would say, is a first time. Many old-time builders have never heard that 4 years later, when a $60 million job is complete, that carrying charges can be reduced over those estimated before the shovel went in.
Mr. Trump, were you an associate of the late borough president, John Cashmore?
No, I knew John Cashmore, same as I've known a dozen other borough presidents.
And he did not use any influence with the borough, with the Board of Estimate, to get you that project known now as Trump Village?
John Cashmore was the borough president at the time, and John Cashmore was interested in receiving a fair return, tax-wise, to hold down the tax rate in the borough of Brooklyn. And John Cashmore, I would say, was on my team when I offered to pay $1.5 million tax rather than a $250,000 a year offer, which the borough president had previously received from another outfit.
Thank you. Very good.
Sorry, please. Steve.
Mr. Trump, Trump, it was charged here this morning that the Warbass and Trump Village project area was once intended to be only one project of the United Housing Foundation, that they were forced to hold back until you received half the project. Is that the case?
No, that isn't the case at all. The situation was they were going to build 6,000 units and pay the city $250,000 a year in real estate taxes. We own Beach Haven and Shore Haven, and we pay the city over $1 million a year. We thought it was very unfair. As we pay $300 a unit, they wanted to pay $30 a unit. So we offered to pay the city for the identical number of units $1.5 million a year instead of $250,000 as they had offered. Subsequently, it came up in city plan and board of estimate. The job was divided where we got 3,800 units and they got, I believe, 2,400 or 2,500.
Mr. Trump, did you have influence with the late Brooklyn Borough President John Cashmore to hold back the project until you got half of it?
No, absolutely not. There was no holding back of the project. It had to come up before city planning, before the board of estimate, and an executive session of the board of estimate until it was finally resolved to divide this project. It was just time consuming.
Did you set up the Borough Equipment Corporation and rent equipment to yourself, the money you charge to the state?
Yes, we've had borough equipment for years, and we use it only for our own account. We don't rent to outsiders, and we use it only to expedite the progress of our construction projects.
One of the figures mentioned... Calling? All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
He was just playing safe on two questions.
It's now 19 minutes before the hour.
Well, back in 1927, Marjorie Merriweather Post, one of the richest and most famous women of the day, built a house in Palm Beach, Florida. But not just any house. It has 118 rooms, half of them bedrooms, 33 bathrooms, a theater, and just in case, 3 bomb shelters. During the 70s, the federal government held it as a presidential retreat, but gave it back because it couldn't afford the $1 million a year upkeep. Well, the house is Mar-a-Lago. Now, if the government couldn't afford it, you might wonder who could. Meet Donald Trump, real estate man and multi-millionaire.
That's right. This is the great entrance hall to Mar-a-Lago. The tiles are from 1400, and they're ancient Spanish tiles, and throughout the house they have 36,000 of these tiles. They're each in themselves a work of art, and it's a very special entryway, as you can see.
So you walk in here and people start gasping just about at this point, right?
Well, they are very, they're amazed at what they see, as I was when I first walked in, and as you were.
When you first walked through that door, the first time you walked into this house, what did you think?
I couldn't really believe it. This was one of the great treasures of the world. It's considered the #1 home far and away in America, and I personally just couldn't believe it.
And when you see it, you believe it. The ceiling glistens with 1,000 gold leaf wings. Bristol crystal chandeliers light the 60-foot-long living room. 7 antique silk tapestries adorn the walls. And the huge stone Italian Gothic fireplace still works.
I have not used it, no. I have not.
Eventually.
I'm concerned about using it. I don't want any smoke in the room, to be perfectly honest. In fact, if you notice, we have Mrs. Post's picture right alongside of my wife's picture with Town and Country. Mm-hmm. So we really pay a certain reverence to Mrs. Post and what she was able to create, because she created a magical house. It's a fantasy house.
But are you going to change this room at all? I mean,
No.
You're not going to do anything?
No.
No personal Trump touches here?
No. Believe it or not, no.
That's right. Everything is going to stay exactly the way Mrs. Post would have had it. So this is the dining room. How many does it seat?
Well, I guess it seats as many as you want. It just, I really couldn't even tell you. It seats from anywhere from 2 to probably 50 or 60 people, depending on the way you set it up.
And setting it up is an art in itself. Mrs. Post left 17 sets of china in the house. That means the Trumps can entertain 36 of their friends for 19 straight nights and never use the same set twice. Now that's a lot of china.
She has a house that that slept 56, it has 56 bedrooms, and each person that would come as a guest would have their own car and driver. They'd each have a Rolls Royce, the room, the driver, the maid, their own cook. She lived a style that nobody's lived in this country. Nobody in this country has ever lived that style.
Now these glasses, they're light, they're all actually hand-painted?
Yes, all hand-painted, Venetian, and truly magnificent, and not produced. You couldn't get glass like this today.
Now I know you've already eaten in this room, you've actually had a dinner party. When you sit in here with people all around this table and you eat off with this gold and these are lit, and you sit in this room, what do you think?
I say, what am I doing here? How did this happen?
As a matter of fact, that's precisely what a lot of other people would like to know. Mar-a-Lago has been for sale since 1980. The asking price was a cool $20 million. Donald Trump's deal for the 118-room mansion was nowhere near that price. So you paid $5 million for the house.
Well, you said that. I didn't say that.
What did you pay for the house?
Well, I won't discuss that on national
What did you pay
television.
for the house?
Well, I can tell you that if you use the number that you're using, you probably wouldn't be too far off.
The rest of the deal reportedly includes $3 million for the mansion's furniture and $2 million for the beach, bringing the grand total to a stunning $10 million. If that's true, by Palm Beach standards, Trump got himself an incredible deal.
I've been all over the world, and I've seen the great castles of Europe, and I don't believe, with the exception of possibly a Buckingham Palace of Versailles, there is anything in the world, not only in this country, but in the world, that's comparable to Mar-a-Lago.
You've left it exactly the way she had it.
Exactly.
And something that's interesting to me is this little thing here on her door. And you pull this little thing down, and it says, "Do not disturb resting."
That's correct. That's from a different age.
So people who are somewhat concerned that they'll start having tour buses come through here, that Mr. and Mrs. Trump will turn this into a real tourist attraction, you can rest their fears?
I can rest their fears. I mean, they were also concerned that I was going to turn the house into a great hotel casino, and I have no intention of doing anything like that.
So on winter weekends, Donald Trump says you will find him here, entertaining friends and family with a staff of 25, safely protected by a security force of 30. At the young age of 39, Donald Trump has found his castle. Lucky Donald Trump, and I must say he was very kind, because I think he originally thought this tour would take something like 15, 20 minutes, and as you could tell, those rooms are gigantic, and we must thank the lighting people that came along and lit this house beautifully, and it took him several hours to take us through, so he said that's the first time he'll do it, and the last.
So we just saw it. Now, Mar-a-Lago is the name of it? That is, what, a 1920s film star?
I don't know, but it means from sea to ocean.
Mar-a-Lago.
And it's Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, translation.
All right. Coming up next, we're going to take you to a Florida tennis camp where they train you for mind games.
Can it be Donald Trump with money problems? Robert Krowich is here with a story. Good morning.
Good morning. Donald Trump is running short of cash, very short apparently. His bankers are now worried that he is not going to be able to make payments coming due on his loans. 4 major New York banks, Bankers Trust, Manufacturers Hanover, Citicorp, and Chase, have been negotiating directly with Trump and may force him to sell key properties. In a statement issued yesterday, Trump insisted his investments remain excellent values. He is confident that he and his bankers will work things out, but there is a problem.
This building is a winner. Nobody's seen anything like it. The reviews have been unanimous raves.
Donald Trump has never stopped glamorizing and romanticizing every deal he's made to make sure that his name is associated with wealth, success, and impossible dreams. It's obvious that he likes the attention, but also it is a very smart business strategy. He is able to say to bankers, I have made my name into a kind of premium brand. If I buy a building, an apartment, hotel, casino, whatever, once I put my name on it, instantly it's worth more. My name adds value.
So forget your normal financial analysis. Trump says if I buy something for $1, put my name on it, it's worth $2, which makes me a great guy to lend to, because if you're going to be worried about getting paid back, I can sell the building for the higher price. And arguably, that's been the case. Even in a soft real estate market, the Wall Street Journal says that one-bedroom apartments at Trump Park in New York have sold recently for $600,000. Not bad. But as the real estate market gets worse, bankers are worried that Trump's buildings are not only not worth what he thinks they're worth, very soon they're going to be worth much less. So they are asking tough questions. First, forgetting about selling the properties, do any of them make money? And we're talking about the Trump Taj Mahal, the Plaza Hotel, Trump Castle, Trump Plaza, Trump Regency, Trump Plaza, the Palm Beaches, Trump Tower, Grand Hyatt. The Wall Street Journal reports of all these, only 2 properties are expected to make money this year. The retail stores in Trump Tower and his half interest in Grand Hyatt. That's it. So there's not a flood of money coming in, but the bottom line is, if he's short on cash, he can always sell, right? These are valuable properties. Well, not so fast, said a Wall Street Journal article yesterday. For months now, Donald Trump has tried to sell some of these assets, but look what's happened.
The Journal says he tried to sell part of the Plaza Hotel to the Japanese, but when the Tokyo stock market dropped, the Japanese said no deal. When he tried to get a bigger loan on the Trump Tower, Prudential Insurance said no deal. When he tried to borrow more money on the Grand Hyatt Hotel, again, no deal. When he tried to interest Japanese investors in his yacht, the Trump Princess, once again, no deal. And now he's trying to sell the Trump shuttle, but because Pan Am has decided to sell its shuttle, with 2 shuttles selling at the same time, there's still no deal. Not yet.
Well, this is a crystal chandelier. They're extremely expensive, and I guess overall we have close to $20 million worth of chandeliers in this room alone.
Expenses are also a problem for Donald Trump. Here in Atlantic City, all 3 of his casinos have not yet broken even this year. And the Taj Mahal, in spite of all the hoopla, is falling short of its income targets. And if that weren't enough, there is Ivana, his wife.
Is it true about it?
The Journal reports that this week, Donald Trump will ask to reduce the $25 million payment he promised Ivana in case of a divorce. Meanwhile, she wants some of the properties herself. And if ownership and title become part of their divorce case, it is going to be even harder for Donald Trump to sell what he's got.
So the question is, how is he going to pay his bankers?
New indications tonight that the Wheel of Fortune may be taking another interesting and potentially bad spin for Donald Trump. Even with word that major banks have agreed to supply the New York real estate man with new loans, there are reports that he's now being investigated by the federal government. CBS News business correspondent Ray Brady has the latest on the Trump story.
Not only is his real estate empire crumbling, well-informed sources tell CBS News that Donald Trump is being investigated by the government Securities and Exchange Commission. Trump had been a huge investor not only in real estate but in stocks. His office denies any knowledge of the investigation, and the SEC itself had no comment. Still, for Donald Trump, the chips are down. Figures out today show revenues at his huge $1 billion Taj Mahal casino coming to just over $1 million a day. Not enough, say some experts, for it to break even. One of his other 2 casinos showed a sharp drop in revenues. A group of big banks is planning a huge loan for Trump, just as they do for Mexico, Brazil, and other big debtors. Analysts say the banks are lending him money so he can pay the money he owes them. The banks can't afford to let him go under.
I think the banks are helping Trump, but they're also helping themselves.
There are new questions, too, about the worth of some Trump properties, such as the Trump Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, where a room could cost you as little as $215 a night.
It's got $400 million in debt. And if one just calculated what the interest rate would be, or the payments on the loan, the average room rate would have to be over $1,000 a night.
The SEC investigation does not necessarily mean, of course, that Trump is guilty of wrongdoing, but it does come as a major new concern for the man who's the symbol of the go-go, get-rich-quick 1980s. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
The question of he's still on Donald Trump, too. Bankers today approved a short-term loan for New York real estate man and casino operator Trump, while agreeing in principle to a bigger long-term rescue effort. As with any bank transaction, there were conditions. But even with his wings clipped and the future clouded, Donald Trump will be flying high. CBS News business correspondent Ray Brady has our report.
For wheeler dealer Donald Trump, his biggest gamble may be paying off. The banks today came up with bailout money, $20 million he needed by tonight to keep from defaulting on interest payments.
The banks don't want to acknowledge the fact that they have made bad loans and therefore are prepared to throw good money after bad.
Trump seemed to know the banks were his ace in the hole.
Over the years, I've surprised a lot of people. The biggest surprise is yet to come.
For the banks, the biggest surprise may have been Donald Trump's checkbook. To get his loans, the banks say he's got to make sacrifices. He's got to cut back his personal spending to $450,000 a month. That's $450,000 a month.
Oh, please. I don't think I can spend it in a year.
I can live on $450,000 a month. Oh, boy.
$450,000. Don't you think that sounds nuts?
For Donald Trump, personal spending is only part of the game. Last month, his personal bills came to $583,000. But he had other expenses as well. The 727, another $246,000 a month. The famous yacht, $841,000. And every month, over $2 million in interest on credit charges.
Well, most of us have to be on a budget. Why not Donald Trump?
But the Donald's still a debtor. He's got to sell off a lot, like the Trump princess. The yacht's been hawked on Tokyo TV.
It is gold.
But even the Japanese aren't buying. So Donald Trump, once the symbol of the go-go 1980s, is discovering what most Americans already know. Even when the party's over, the bills keep rolling in. Ray Brady, CBS News, New York.
Well, we live in unpredictable times. Who could have foreseen the events that are shaking the world stage? Who would have believed that someone named Buster Douglas would knock out the unconquerable Mike Tyson, become the world heavyweight champion? And now it seems that one of the nation's most publicly married couples is heading for a very public divorce. Richard Roth reports.
It's like the buildings they name, the hotels or casino, or like the helicopter or the airline. It's like the football team or the board game, another deal in the Trump tradition. The greatest, the biggest, the best. This time, though, it's a breakup. Now under development, the Trump divorce. Donald and Ivana are in negotiations. It was a storybook merger, or so it seemed, the billionaire builder and the Czechoslovak model. Married for almost 13 years, the public personification of marital bliss.
I always said I'm a traditional girl. Donald is the boss, and I like it that way.
If it's a meal, she'll make a meal. If it's a family, she'll raise a family. And if it's running the Plaza Hotel, it's running the Plaza Hotel.
Donald Trump reportedly walked out this week, saying the marriage was no longer working and hoping to settle under terms of a prenuptial contract, guaranteeing Ivana the house, the kids, and more than $20 million. Ivana has rejected the deal, through a lawyer calling the contract unconscionable and fraudulent. This is so sudden, the only New York tribunal that's heard the case is the Court of Public Opinion.
Donald's definitely getting the better end. She gets $20 million. What's he worth? $16 billion?
That $25 million should be a fair settlement under any circumstances.
It's not just a marriage that's on the line, it's Donald Trump's reputation as a deal maker in a business he'll find brand new. And as Zsa Zsa Gabor once observed, you never really know a man until you have divorced him. Richard Roth, CBS News, New York.
That's our report from New York. Dan Rather will be back with more from South Africa in a moment.
Stay tuned, because in the Big Apple, the players are warming up for what's sure to be a long season. It's not baseball, it's the Trump divorce case. To the rest of the country, though, it must look like New York has gone a little nuts. Communism is collapsing, the Germanys are reuniting, South Africa is changing. But in Manhattan, the story is Trump versus Trump. This was Ivana Trump's birthday party yesterday. It attracted enough news people to block traffic on 52nd Street. One newspaper alone sent 5 photographers. Barbara Walters and columnist Liz Smith came as guests.
Nobody spoke ill of Donald.
Well, in fact, I don't think his name was mentioned until now.
New Yorkers love the story because they know the players so well.
Donald, the flamboyant billionaire, and Ivana, the woman he loved. They went everywhere, owned everything. But now Donald is left, reportedly for another woman, and Ivana wants her fair share of the fortune. Her friends say greed has nothing to do with it.
She has never asked for anything specific.
The divorce has pushed virtually all other stories off the front pages of the New York tabloids. Yesterday, it filled 2 front pages and another 13 pages inside. One national paper has even offered the alleged other woman $250,000 for her side of the story. But why all the overwhelming publicity for a domestic battle? Maybe because they're rich and famous. Maybe because of the steamy details. Or just maybe, with almost $2 billion, planes, yachts, and skyscrapers, the Trumps turned out to be human after all.
Donald Trump is holding a news conference today to promote a big money boxing match, but he's sure to be questioned about another fight with an even bigger purse. Robin Givens and Mike Tyson, move over.
About this time last year, Donald Trump was promoting a board game that was on display at the toy show called Trump the Game. Now we got Trump the War. CBS Morning News continues for Thursday, the 15th of February.
In some final thoughts this morning, the saga of Donald and Marla appears to be over again. The New York Daily News reports that Donald Trump has dumped his Georgia peach, Marla Maples. You may remember Trump dropped Marla before, only to win her back with a 7.5-carat diamond engagement ring. But Trump says this time it's for good. And about that ring, a friend says Marla intends to keep it. 25 minutes before the hour, time to check in with Mark McCune. Did you see the front page of this paper this morning?
Yeah. Oh, I get so upset about this stuff. Yes, I did see the front page. Well, I tell you, God, does this mean Donald be doing no excuses jeans commercial?
Donald Trump is suing the federal government over what he claims is special treatment for gambling casinos on American Indian land. Native American groups say the billionaire developer is simply just greedy. Trump owns 3 casinos in New Jersey, where the Ramapo tribe hopes to build one of its own. Between filing lawsuits, Trump found some time to help pick candidates for Playboy magazine's 40th anniversary Playmate. The winner of the nationwide photo search gets to take off her clothes and take home a $40,000 prize, the old American way. 11 minutes before the hour from New Orleans, Mark has this morning's weather.